Are you a creative who is good at what you do and you want to turn it into a business, or you've been doing it for a while and you're trying to figure out why is it that your business is still not making you the money that you want to make? Feel underbooked or underpaid? Well, in this video, I'm covering exactly that. And actually, it's 5 costly mistakes that you might be making that are keeping you underbooked and underpaid. But who am I to listen to? Well, my name is Morgan Winfrey, founder and owner of JustWin Media, and I help creative entrepreneurs build profitable businesses on purpose. That means structuring your business sustainably, pricing your offers profitably, and building a system that helps you run the business without you having to be there. So if any of that interests you, then this is the video for you and you've reached the right channel. Feel free to subscribe. If not, that's all fine and dandy. I just want to make sure that you get the information that you need so that you can walk away from this video with the tools, with the tips, with the tactics of what you can do to fix these 5 costly mistakes. So, like I said, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the 5 most costly mistakes that creators make that keep them underbooked and underpaid. So let's dive into it. Now, these mistakes are not in any order, but these are the top 5 that I've seen when it comes to why creatives stay broke, stay underpaid, and stay underbooked. So mistake number 1 that I see most common is creatives tend to sell their service instead of selling solutions. Now, this is a case of understanding what it is that you do and understanding what it is that you're good at, but not necessarily knowing who it is that you are serving. Basically, what I'm saying is you know what you want to sell, but you don't know who you want to sell it to. And it's harder to think of a solution when you don't know what problem you're solving. And if you don't know what problem you're solving, that means that you haven't identified who your audience is. So all of this really stems back to not understanding who your audience is. But the thing is, when somebody asks you, so what do you do? It's easy for you to just say, well, I do photography, I do videography, I do graphic design, I do hair, I do makeup, I do. It's easy for you to say that. But in the same sense, that doesn't really answer the implied question of what do you do that can benefit me? What can you do or what do you do that helps me? How are you beneficial to me? Think about it as you're going on a vacation. If I'm a travel agent, I'm not going to sell you on the plane ticket. I'm not going to sell you on the seats on the plane. I'm not going to sell you the hotel room. What I'm going to sell you is what you're going to feel like when you're on the beach in your bikini in 70-degree weather or 80-degree weather. You're getting a nice tan. I'm going to sell you the experience, not necessarily the things that involve the experience. Now, yes, those things are important, but we don't lead with those things. So a lot of times when we lead with our services, we position ourselves as just basically being the one that does all the work. We don't have much time in order for us to actually be able to do anything else. We generally are both the employer and the employee. And so sometimes that makes it very hard for people to take you seriously because they only see you based on your need. When you try to sell just the service only, you're pretty much only selling based on need, not necessarily based on the longevity of trying to get this specific outcome, specific goal, specific result. Now, you can always change this by leading with the outcome and then pairing that with the services and deliverables and everything like that. So let's just say I'm a business owner that wants to build my personal brand or build my brand on social media. That means I'm trying to build my online presence. Now, as a photographer, as a videographer, as a media company or whatever, let's just say as a media company who takes care of photography, videography, web design, graphics, and everything like that, JustWin Media, just so you know. But as a photography or as a media company, the problem that I'm solving is helping somebody gain an online presence. Now, we'll have to define a few things as far as what is an online presence to you. What does having an online presence mean to you? What will that actually do for you and your business? So if you having a personal brand means that you want 10,000 followers on social media, then we need to do this in order to get you to 10,000 followers. Or we'll have to post this, or we'll have to have this many content sessions. We'll have to use these type of graphics. We'll have to do this with this. We'll have to do it. So we'll have to put things in place. But I'm not selling you on those things. I'm selling you on whether or not it's achievable. Yes, we can do it, and we can do it fairly quickly. How fast can you do it? So fairly quickly, how fast is that? Is that 3 months? Is that 3 weeks? Is that 3 days? So the faster you can get somebody results, the more likely they'll be willing to pay for it. When you promote what you do instead of what it does, when you attract price shoppers instead of value driven clients. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. When what I mean by you attract price shoppers is that there are a bunch of people who do the same thing that you do. That's why we tend to call it as creators a saturated market, or the market is too saturated. So it feels like it doesn't benefit us any to just tell people we're a photographer, we're a videographer, basically just telling people what we do. And in actuality, it doesn't do you any good, because that means that it's like I can find other photographers in the area and just see who can do it for the cheapest price. That's really how you enter the race to the bottom, is because you're leading based off of the service that you provide and not necessarily the problem that you solve. Not all service providers know how to solve the same problem in the same way. And that's what differentiates you from your competition. If you're only leading with what it is that you do, you tend to hold yourself into being like a worker bee. What I mean by a worker bee is that you're just the person who does the thing. You don't help anybody. You just want to come, get paid, and leave. You just want to come, do your job, and leave. And you're basically just nothing more than an employee, which a lot of us as creatives, we don't like working for other people, which is the whole reason why we ended up getting into this whole I want to work for myself spiel, or I just want to own my own business thing. But the thing about owning your own business and the thing about being self-employed that a lot of people don't really talk about is that there's a difference between being a self-employed business owner and being an entrepreneur business owner. An entrepreneur business owner has systems built in place. So when you have systems built in place, you don't have to be present in order for the business to make money. As a self-employed entrepreneur, you have to be there because you're both the employee and the employer. And you'll come to realize that you're either a bad employee or you're a bad employer, or both. And the thing is, when you lead with services, you're having to be both at the same time. Because if the business stops when you stop working, then you don't have a business. You just have a very time consuming hobby. And so a very expensive hobby at that. So you want to make sure that you separate yourself from always having to be viewed as the person that's doing the thing. Now, yes, if you want to do it, that's cool, fine, and dandy. But that's also a premium when you have other people who can do it for less. So just think about it like this. If you're a owner of a media company and you know how to do all the jobs, but you also have a team of people who know how to do the thing, you also have the ability to charge more, because if you were to do it, that's going to take up a lot of your time that you can be using to do other things. But if you have a team, you're going to sell based on efficiency. You can sell based on the speed in which it gets done. You can sell based on the likelihood of them actually achieving the desired outcome that they want. And that entire thing makes it much more appealing to somebody who has the ability and the willingness to pay higher prices. It gives you even more room and it gives you more leverage in order to be able to charge higher prices. So when you're selling based off of the services themselves, you're having to compete based on price. You're having to compete based on what the other people in the market are charging. And you really can't put a value technically to what it is that you do, because you're not selling on the value of the outcome. You're selling on the perceived value of the service that you do. And when you have somebody down the street, they'll do the same thing that you would do for $150 when you're charging $500, and you got somebody else that's charging $1,000 for the same exact thing you do, then it kind of makes it hard for somebody who just needs a couple of images or just needs something fast or just need whatever. It's hard for them to really be able to be like, well, I don't really know what the value is because somebody else is charging 150, another person charging 1,500. So why would I go with you if it's just based on what you do? That's why you want to really emphasize the results, the outcomes, the transformation, instead of charging based off of just the services that you do. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see that most creative entrepreneurs tend to do. Mistake number two is underpricing from fear, not strategy. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. Most creative entrepreneurs are very scared, or most creative people, I don't even want to say entrepreneurs, but most creative people are scared to charge a lot for what it is that they do. Because when they hear a certain amount, they immediately ask themselves this implied question of, would I pay for that myself? And if they would not pay for it themselves, they can't imagine other people paying that much amount of money for that exact thing, which in a sense is understandable, but it's also very limiting because you are not your ideal customer. You are not your ideal client. And so what your ideal client would pay for might be worlds different from what you would be willing to pay for. But value is based on the person. So the customer is the one that decides the value. And if somebody says, well, that's too expensive, what I hear is that it's just, I can't afford it. And the thing is, you have to be able to reposition them to think that it's not necessarily that you can't afford it. Is it that you can't afford it monetarily right now? Or can you just not see how this can actually make you more money instead of losing you money? Because when people say they can't afford it, it's like, I can't afford to spend this money. And you also have to think about it too, is that when it comes to underpricing, you're probably counting your customers' pockets when you should not do that. And yes, it's easy to say, no, you shouldn't count people's pockets, but we do judge books by their covers. We do judge based off of what we see somebody being able to do. So that in itself, while it is not necessarily the best thing to do, it's also just natural. It's also a habit of us because we tend to just make prejudgments. We tend to be prejudiced in a sense because that's just how we're wired. Unless that's just how humans are wired. So unless you're just some person that gives everybody a chance from the jump, which is one of the best approaches you can have as an entrepreneur. But when you're a business owner, you have to stop counting people's pockets. You have to just assume that everybody can afford what it is that you do. And let me explain by that because I know that can be very controversial. But if you assume that everybody can afford the solution that you offer, then you will not charge based on or based out of people's lack. You will base it out of people's abundance. And the thing is, you have to be willing to see things in abundance instead of seeing things out of lack. So that's one of the things that we tend to do as human beings, especially if we're not believers. We tend to look at things out of lack instead of looking at things out of abundance. It doesn't do anybody any good for you to charge little to nothing. We say we're trying to save people money, but in actuality, when we try to help people save money, it ends up kind of backfiring. And what I mean by kind of backfiring is that if I try to save it on the front end, I'm gonna end up losing it on the back end. I'm gonna end up spending more money over time because I was saving money instead of just going ahead and paying for it outright, right then and there, get it right the first time, and then being able to reap the benefits for a longer term. And I only have to do it once every blue moon instead of always having to re up. It's like paying for the cheaper thing because you're trying to save money, and then you're having to always have complaints about that cheap thing, or it's always little holes or little gimmicks or little things that you just don't like about the cheap thing. But when it comes to the more expensive thing, the more costly thing, you generally, most times, if the product is good or if the service is good, you don't have as many problems with the more expensive thing than you do with the least expensive thing. Because when you charge what is worth, or when you charge high amounts, you're able to serve in a higher capacity. You're able to serve at a higher value. You're able to serve at a higher quality. Because you're able to spend more, you're able to provide a better quality service. You're able to create a better quality product. But if you're just nickel and diming people because you feel like they can't afford it, then you end up trying to rig things together and you end up with a lesser quality item. And the thing is, you can't be the best and be the cheapest. So you can't market yourself as the best in your city or the best in class or anything like that if you're the cheapest. You generally don't see the people that are the best generally cost the most. So just that alone, and if you're okay with just being like, I'm not there yet and everything like that, well, cool. Don't market yourself as that. But you also don't want to price yourself based around what feels safe. because you'll end up targeting and attracting the people who are the biggest headaches to deal with. Generally, the person who pays the least is the biggest headache. So, why would you want to deal with headaches? Why would you want to position yourself to have to deal with headaches? Now, one of the things that I see a lot of the times is that when people start dealing with those headaches, they just go up on their price, $50, $100, maybe $200, $250 at most, or they add a very expensive package, what they consider expensive, be it 1,000, 1,500, or something like that, and then they just nip in the bud the $250 package or whatever. And while in a sense that can work, they generally don't do it based out of strategy. They just do it just to get rid of the cheap people. They just do that to get rid of the people that was getting on their nerves. And that's not necessarily the best strategy, if you ask me. So what I mean by all of this, why I'm saying all of this, is just because when you base your pricing based on what you think they can afford, then you tend to be the bottleneck of the business, because pricing is the largest determining factor of how profitable a business is. Now, yes, when you raise your prices, you will lose customers. When you charge over a certain amount, you will have people that can't afford it, that see it as too expensive. And that in itself is okay, because your target audience isn't everybody. Not everybody is your ideal customer. Not everybody will be your customer. So you have to first accept that everybody's not your customer. Then accept that if I want to be great, if I want to provide a quality service, I need to charge based on the outcome that I'm getting them, based on the results that I'm getting. I have to charge enough for me to be able to provide a high quality result that will also take care of expenses and things of that nature. You do want to calculate your cost, but you also want to make sure that you have enough profit built into that price so that you can not only pay your people, but also pay yourself. And the business has money left over to then reinvest in the business and grow and things of that nature. Mistake number 3 is hiding behind pretty content instead of clear messaging. And here's why this is a mistake. You can have the most aesthetic Instagram feed, TikTok reel, whatever the case may be. But if people don't understand what you do, who you do it for, and what result you actually create or actually help people get, they won't buy. And this really ties back into understanding who your audience is, understanding what they value, understanding what they care about, understanding what makes them tick, and things of that nature. If you don't understand these things, then it's very hard for you to dial in your messaging. Yes, your mistakes are cool and they are a contributing factor to why people might book you. But quality in this day and age, quality in 2025, 2026, whenever you're watching this, quality nowadays is a given. I expect for it to be quality. So you can't market, or you can't just lead with, well, we have high quality services. And to think that everybody can see high quality or know what quality is in itself is not wise. So what you want to do is you want to guide people through the process and make it to where your messaging, simplify your messaging to where the value that you provide is undeniable. People know what you do, people know who you help, and people know how you help them achieve a certain outcome. When you can tie up these loose ends, it'll make your marketing much more effective, because it's not only aesthetically pleasing, but it's also emotionally and logically pleasing as well. It's appealing to either my emotions or it's appealing to my logic. And so when you think about these things, you want to think about, if a stranger were to look at your profile, would they immediately be able to understand what you do and who you help? If they wouldn't be able to understand that, then you have a messaging issue. It's not necessarily that your work isn't good, but nobody can really be able to immediately identify who it is that you work with, who it is that you help. And this is why we say niche down, but it's really just focusing. If you focus on a particular group of people that have a particular problem, it's not necessarily niching down to a specific lane. Now, yes, you can niche down to, let's just say, if you, instead of saying entrepreneurs, you say real estate agents in Memphis, Tennessee. If you're somebody like that, then cool, you'll have a specific audience, but that audience might be a little bit too niche, and it might not be too many of them in the region. Whereas if you target a group of people who all have the same problem, then the problem is your niche. That problem that you solve is your focus. Because then how you solve that problem through the thing that you do is what makes you unique. And so when people see that, they see that you're different. They don't have anybody else to compare you to because you're marketing to the problem, not to what it is that you do. Mistake number 4 is waiting for clients instead of guiding them. So a lot of creatives wait for people to get it, to see their value. And they assume that the value of their work is obvious. And while that is hopeful, while that is optimistic, it's not feasible, it's not effective. And you don't want to assume that clients always get it. You don't want to assume that prospects, not clients, but you don't want to assume that prospects know what you know. If they knew what you knew, they wouldn't need to hire you in the first place. And so if they already knew the answers, if they already knew how to solve their problem, they wouldn't need you in the first place. So what you want to do is you want to walk people through the journey. You want to have a customer journey set up, or at least a thought about and mapped out to be like, we need to bring awareness to this problem first. This is what you need to do if you're having trouble with this. Once you take care of this, then we need to go to this next step. This next step is where we handle X, Y, and Z. And then after we do that, or after you watch these clips, or after you do this, after you do this, then we move to the next step. The next step solves A, B, and C. And then you move on, move on, move on. Because if you think about business like a dating situation, you wouldn't meet somebody and immediately once you meet them, ask them to sleep with you. Or you wouldn't meet somebody and immediately once you meet them, you ask them to marry you. It's the same way with business. You can't assume that somebody who just is now finding out about you, who's just now seeing your work, who's just now learning who you are, is going to be ready to buy right off the bat. Yes, you will have those few here and there, but the goal is to really have people that are not only building up trust with you and becoming fans of your work, but also see the value in what it is that you do based on how you help them and how you let them grow with you, or you've grown with them, to understand that this is the problem that you have. This is the problem that most businesses like yours have, or most people like you have. This is how what I offer bridges the gap from where you are to where you want to be. And that's basically what it is that you want to do. You want to identify the gap between where they are and where they want to be. And your marketing and your messaging and everything like that is what is articulating how your offer bridges the gap between those two, how you help them get from point A to point C without all the other obstacles that they will face in between. Mistake number 5 is building a business without boundaries. I can't tell you how many times I've seen creative entrepreneurs have a business without business hours. No, you don't know many businesses that are open 24/7. You don't need to be answering every DM whenever you get it. Let things build up. If your office hours start at 10 and they end at 5, cut your business day off from 10 to 5. You don't do anything before 10 and you don't do anything after 5. That gives you boundaries because you still have a life to live. You still have other things that you need to do. And so you don't want your business to consume 16 to 20 hours that you're awake. So you want to be able to give yourself boundaries, and also the things that you will and will not do, the things that you are going to tolerate and the things you won't tolerate. When you have these sort of boundaries, it helps people, or it gives people space to actually respect you more, and also see you and position you at a higher level in their mind, because you don't just let anything fly. You don't just do anything just off the whim. And if people won't respect it, then those people aren't your customers to begin with. And so set your boundaries, set your times that you actually will be doing business stuff and be doing personal stuff, and just be able to separate the two. If you're able to separate them, then I promise you it'll make getting booked easier, because people know I only work in these certain parameters. It adds a sense of scarcity. It adds a sense of as deadlines and things of that nature. So it's like, if you don't book by this time, I won't be available until this time tomorrow. So it gives people parameters to work around and work in, instead of always having to fit your schedule around theirs. People fit around yours, and you're able to take care of business a lot more efficiently in that amount of time. Because once you know how much time you have to actually do business and everything like that, you'll be more intentional about the time that you take. I don't start my day immediately going into business. I start my day just getting myself ready for life. I deal with family stuff, I deal with life stuff and everything like that. I don't automatically just jump straight into business. I do, however, I do look at certain things. I might look at my calendar or something like that just to see what my day looks like. But when you do that, it gives you more time to breathe. It gives you more space to breathe. And people respect that, because if you respect your time, the people will respect your time. If you don't respect your time, people are not going to respect your time, essentially. You will have certain people who fall through the cracks. But you want to set clear boundaries around your time, your energy, and the scope of the business that you're going to be doing. I'm not doing unlimited revisions. I'm not doing unlimited outfits. I'm not doing certain things. And the thing is, the boundaries don't push good clients away. It actually pushes the bad clients away. So the more boundaries you put in place, the more friction you put in place, it raises the bar and raises the standard in which your customers have to really meet. It raises the bar for them to really understand that I don't tolerate everything. This isn't just your mom and pop thing down the street. This is an actual business where we have rules, we have regulations, we have things in place that if you don't abide by them, I can't work with you. You can't do business. And while it's nothing personal, it's strictly business. I have to be able to do this because that's just how we've always done business. And that's one thing you can always say. It's just how we've always done it. And I can't do it today. Or I can't do it after that time. And if you do it after that time, it also allows you to leverage the time that you're supposed to be off. So let's just say if you end your workday at 5 and somebody wants to do something at 7:30, well, it's $150 or it's $350 or it's $1,000 for me to do it after hours. It gives you that leeway because I only do things in this certain time frame. So I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to mistake number 5 of building a business without boundaries is time. Because time is the one asset that you don't get back. Time is the one thing that you don't get back. So if you don't value your time, people will take advantage of it. So you just want to make sure that whatever you do, value your time, set time boundaries, and set scope boundaries, because that's how you get scope creep and everything like that. Or people are like, well, one more revision, one more, let's change this. Can we change this? Can we change it? And if you keep saying yes, then you end up getting underpaid because the work that you agreed to initially ends up being just a baseline of what you ended up doing. And people will be like, well, you can go to him because he'll give you as many revisions as you want. While that's true to an extent, you have to pay a certain price for it. So the boundaries doesn't necessarily mean you stop doing stuff. It just means you add a dollar sign to the things that if you want me to do this, or if you want me to tolerate this, or if you want me to do a certain thing after a certain time, there is a price associated with it. And that's how you end up building a profitable business, is because when people want you to do things outside of the parameters that you've already set for yourself and your business, you end up being able to charge them for it. And if they really want the thing, if they really want you to do it, if they really want whatever, if your team does it and you do it, it's a certain amount of money for you to do it, and it's a certain amount of money for your team to do it. Generally, for you to do it is going to be much more expensive than if your team does it. I said this in another video. But you just set those boundaries, because people will respect you more when you respect you more. So hopefully all that was helpful. Hopefully it wasn't too long of a video. And if it was, at the end of the day, I go into these things because I've seen them, I've experienced them, I've done them myself. And I want to cut that journey down, cut the amount of mistakes that you'll end up making in this entire journey. It's not easy. It's not always fun. But if you are able to eliminate or avoid some of these mistakes, then you'll be able to build a profitable business faster and build a sustainable business that you'll eventually be able to step away from and then still make money. And then you'll actually be able to live the life that you ultimately wanted to live when starting this business in the first place. So hopefully this blessed you. Hopefully this helped you out. And if you liked it, like this video, share it with a friend, leave a comment, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you guys on the next video.